Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is feeling hopeless in the world of dating. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
We are not. We are not trained in this. We are not professionals in any which way. So please take our advice as you see fit in your life. We are only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs on the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. All right, Sam. So I'm super pumped about today's check-in topic. It's a Monday. We're going to do a check-in topic before we get into a letter. And we are going to review a selection of songs listed as the top 70 first dance wedding songs from brides.com.
I'm just remembering the conversation process that brought us to this
Do you want
decision.
To tell them about
it feels just very random to me now that you said it out loud.
Yes,
why are we doing this?
Here's why. So next week, Just Break Up turns 5. Are you kidding me? 5 years.
Oh my God. Our podcast would be going to kindergarten in the fall if it was a baby.
God. Yes, I cannot believe it. Our podcast, so it's July 16th, will be our 5-year anniversary. And so I came on, to our recording session being like, okay, we're going to check in about our anniversary and we're going to talk about all the things we've learned and what are we reflecting and how do we feel about anniversaries, yada, yada. And Sam's like, it's actually next week. And I was like, I don't have a check-in topic. But then I was like, let's break it into 2 parts. We're going to talk about anniversaries for 2 weeks. And he's like, nobody's going to want to listen to that. And then I was like, okay, well, let's talk about let's look back on our, let's do something that's wedding themed, looking back because it's our anniversary. We could talk about, first dance songs. And Sam's like, do you know we're not married? And I said, in the eyes of capitalism, we are.
We own a business together and therefore we are married.
Yeah. But I'm super excited because I love doing fun, random reviews like this on our show. And actually, this is a good plug for our Patreon. We answer letters over on our Patreon. We put out a bonus episode every week if you haven't heard yet. But we do answer letters, but every once in a while we'll do either we'll just check in personally about something going in our lives that we think our listeners could benefit from hearing. Or we do silly things we give each other quizzes. Last week I gave Sam a quiz on air to see if he was a narcissist or not.
Turns out I was a little bit, just a skosh.
And then we answered a letter. Anyway, so this reminds me of some fun episodes we've done on Patreon where we review love song lyrics and stuff like that. So I'm excited to do it. And you can sign up for that bonus episode if you want it at patreon.com/justbreakuppod. You also get access to the backlog of all of our episodes, ad-free versions of this primary show that comes out,
yes.
3 times a week. If you don't like listening to ads or you don't like fast forwarding through them, you can pay $5 and get no ads and other cool things. So check that out on our Patreon. Let's get into our first dance wedding song review. Caveat, if you have danced to any of these and we have strong feelings about them, we don't know what we're talking about. We are 2 strangers across the ocean and our opinions are just trash.
No, absolutely. Our opinions are our opinions. So if you want to dance to one of these songs, go for it.
First off, what was your first dance song?
Our first dance song was Tower of Learning by Rufus Wainwright.
Oh my God. That is the gayest shit.
Yeah. I love Rufus Wainwright.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, as a queer person also. That is iconic. I just have to say that, though. Love that for you. We had a little tiny COVID wedding, so we didn't really have an official first dance, but we did dance to what would be our song privately, and that is Save Part of Yourself by Brandy Carlisle.
I love Brandy Carlisle.
I know. I know. Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Look at these two queers on this
I know.
podcast.
I know,
Being like Rufus Wainwright and Brandy Carlisle. Apparently we really love a vibrato, we're really drawn to those.
Brandy is impeccable live. Okay, let's get into this.
I cannot.
First song on this list, it's not ranked in any special way, and we're not going to read all of them because there's like 70, and they're modern songs, even though I don't know what they're implying because they're, like Etta James is on here. Is Etta James considered modern? Or are they talking about like waltzes that they would play at like 1600s, 16th century? Do you know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah, no Gregorian chants on this list, unfortunately.
Okay, anyway. All right. So there's no ranking, and we're just going to pick some random ones. But starts off All of Me by John Legend. I think it's pretty neutral classic for me. Neutral.
It's a great song,
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
John Legend seems like a genuine person.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like always doing things, and cute that he wrote it about Chrissy Teigen.
Yeah. Okay, what else is on this list?
I will say that like at least a third of these songs are Ed Sheeran songs, and I got to tell you, I don't know that I could name the tune of a single Ed Sheeran song.
Yeah,
as a not straight person, like it is not something that like comes into my orbit in any way.
Yeah. Like I'm Gonna Lose You by Jasmine Thompson. I 100% thought that was by Meghan Trainor. Am I just 100% wrong?
I don't know.
Apparently. So I'm gonna love you. So like, I don't really love that song as a wedding song. Even though Miss Ephemera over here is like, time is fleeting. You do have to love people you're going to, but it's a little, it's like walking down the aisle to a song about death.
Yeah, what sort of freak would do that?
Sam did. That's this the one. Freak. Okay.
This freak right here.
All right.
Also on this list, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, which I would love to see someone do for their first dance. It's just like it is slow. Like I will give you that.
Oh, it's
I
a
feel
slow
like you
song. I 100% slow dance to it in like 6th grade. I swear. And we would call in to the radio and have requested this song.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so shrill.
It's so shrill. I'm just like picturing somebody like dressed up to the nines, like all their friends and family around them, like dancing. Meanwhile, like
do it.
What's his name? Steven Tyler's in the background being like, and it's like, what? This is so. We used to like drive around Delafield, Wisconsin, just like shrieking that aspect of the song. And I could not listen to it at somebody's wedding without wanting to like scream it at the top of my lungs and totally ruin the moment. So if I'm going to your wedding, I would not recommend this because it will be uncomfortable for all of us.
All right. I mentioned this earlier, but like, classic wedding song. I don't care how replayed it is. At Last by Etta James. So especially because you and I reviewed the lyrics a couple months ago on a Patreon episode, and they're so good. It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
And it's great
just
length.
Like pure love.
It's like 2 minutes long, so it's like you don't have to stand there.
Which is exactly what you need. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yes, totally.
I think also the one that's right above that too is The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra, which is also just like a beautiful. The lyrics are wonderful. There is nothing for me but to love you. That's just beautiful. Also short, which is great.
Yeah, I don't really care for Frankie Boy, except for holiday renditions. But is also undeniable. Love a classic song. Love a modern, quote unquote, modern song at a wedding. I don't know what that means. All right, let's see. What else is on there that Your Song by Elton John. I'm okay with that one.
Mm-hmm. That's
love
a great
that
song.
I love that basically because it was in Moulin Rouge, which is...
Yeah.
If you thought an Elton John song couldn't get gayer. The fact that I know it through a Moulin Rouge movie.
Love that movie. Wait, I just saw one that I was gonna. Oh yeah. Make You Feel My Love by Adele.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Classic, but also
such
sad.
a good song. It is really sad, which, you know, I love sad things in happy places, so I would definitely dance to that.
But it's like it's like I would do all of these things, and like you're not around. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's one of those ones where it's like, oh, this sounds really romantic, but then when you actually listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, this is like about unrequited love or something. It's like when people dance to like I Will Always Love You by like Dolly Parton or Whitney Houston, like this is a breakup song, friends. Like this is a I wish you well on your own type song.
There's 2 songs on here that we haven't mentioned yet that I just want to. It's 500 Miles by Sleeping at Last. Is that the song I'm thinking of?
Yeah, the lyrics that they're saying here are the song you're thinking of, but I don't know if it's like a cover that doesn't sound like a real 80s, like, and I would walk 500
that's
miles.
What I was just wondering. Yeah. And the other one is Only Want to Be With You by Hootie and the Blowfish.
I love that so much.
Can you
Again,
imagine?
Like kind of like a hard song to like... Oh my God. Everyone who got married in like 1998 is like, stop it. That was our first dance song.
You know what? And I'm fine with that. Oh my God. This Kiss by Faith Hill, classic. Will always be a classic. I don't care if it's upbeat to the nines. You can slow dance to this at your wedding.
I'm really into it.
I'm full
really
of contradictions today.
You definitely are. I think it is just like a gut reaction scale that we're going with, friends.
Yeah.
We're not diving too much into the ins and outs of these things.
2 hipster ones by bands that I do enjoy. Work Song by Hozier is a beautiful song. Not sure if it fits in like a wedding vibe. Like it like talk about like the chanting that you brought up earlier. It's very like building. There's like a weird whatever. I'm not going to do an impression of it right now, even though I've done an impression of like 4 other songs. But another song about death that we love to include at weddings.
Love that.
Yeah. No grave can hold my body down. I'll crawl home to her. You know, about
okay.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
That's terrifying, like zombie.
And January Wedding by the Avett Brothers, which I don't really know I just know their popular songs, but that's a cute ass song, you know?
For sure.
You are the best thing. By Ray, how do you say his last name? LaMontagne.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Fucking phenomenal love song.
It's a great love song.
Yeah, would love that at any wedding in any way, shape, and form.
I also, First Day of My Life by Bright Eyes was
my God
100% favorite love song when I was about 17 years old. And it's not that happy. I will tell you that.
No, it is beautiful.
It is. It is.
Colin,
absolutely.
What's his name? Colin Oberst or whatever?
Connor Oberst.
Colin.
It's cute though. It was close.
Good. Yeah, his sad little melancholy voice. I'll just love it forever.
Absolutely.
This list has an Enya song on it. Dreams Are More Precious. Don't know it, but all about it.
Nope.
Home by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Like, I fucking hate that song and love it because, like, you have to, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I hear it and I'm like, man, catchy. I don't like this song. And then I'm like, oh, I love this song.
I will say that there's a weird talking part.
Yeah, no, I knew you wouldn't like the talking part.
Would be uncomfortable to dance to.
Yeah. Let's see. Home is on this list twice. So good job, editors at brides.com. You Send Me by Sam Cooke. Classic.
Great song.
Yeah.
Love that. You're Still the One, Shania Twain. Classic. Oh, that would be so good. I would love to dance with someone to that song. Much.
Yeah. Leon Bridges, Coming Home. Leon Bridges is a big, played person in my household.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Oh my God. And this is the song that I was really thinking of is Beyond by Leon Bridges. Very cute. Great wedding song. Yeah. Which is what on here would you be like, no way in 1,000 years would this be my wedding song?
Besides, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith.
No. Listen. Viper, the little Viper. Sam wanted to be called Viper as a little kid. And
That's right.
Viper would want this to be their wedding song, you know.
God, This Kiss is such a great song.
I know. I'm singing it in my head. Absolutely.
You know,
Every little thing she does is magic. All right, go ahead.
I think all of these are fine. Like, there's none that I'm looking at that I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. Like, they're all fine love songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like My Girl by The Temptations would be a weird first dance song, especially in my context. So I think that's the one I'm going to go with.
Funny. Yeah, I will go with XO by John Mayer because I've heard he's a terrible person.
He did horrible things to Jessica Simpson. And I know that because I read her book and loved it, and you should all read it because it's good.
All right, let's get into our letter.
Okay. This letter comes from Hopeless Romantic, whose pronouns are he, him, who is writing from Hopeless No Romance Town, China. Hi, Sierra and Sam. This is M, all the way from Shanghai, China. I started listening to your podcast after I had my first heartbreak from my first proper date in my late 20s, where we went on one fucking date, and he had the audacity to say that he didn't feel the chemistry and called it off. Took a year and lots of head and heart work, but now I've learned to look past it. Sorry, went a little bit off topic there. Before I ask my questions, I wanted to say thank you for what you do. Your kind, gentle, and loving words have helped me learn and grow to become a better person. I feel it helps give me perspective to work on a healthy relationship. But my problem is how and where do I get one? A little bit about me. I'm in my early 30s, gay, identify as he, him, an overthinker, people pleaser, and have an anxious attachment style. I learned all these from this podcast, except the gay part. That one I figured out on my own. And I learned to love those things about me most of the time. I learned they make me who I am today, and I'm lucky to have a group of friends who loves and appreciates me as I am. I have been trying to date for a while now. I go out socially with friends, bars, events, dating apps. I've tried them all. At this point, I really don't know how out there I can put myself to be. It just doesn't seem to be working. I've had countable dates and one-night stands over the course of the last seven years. Oftentimes, I wonder if I am just a picky person with unrealistic high standards, or it's the fear of rejection that keeps me staying away from potential dates. I often feel I'm missing out on things. I haven't dated or slept around at all. I don't want to look back and regret not having done all these things when I'm at the age to do stupid things and make mistakes. I'm supposed to be trying things out and see what I'm into and what I look for in a relationship, right? Another thing is, as an Asian who has only dated and historically, statistically, don't want to admit it, but probably mostly am only attracted to white gay men, it took a long time to learn to not hate myself for that. But that has led me to a lot of self-doubt and a very, very limited dating puddle. I know I don't need a boyfriend to be happy, but every time friends couple up or are showing up in their honeymoon phase, I can't help but get jealous and wonder, what if it was me? Or even if it ever could be me. And more often, this starts making me feel a little bit lonely. I keep having this feeling of I haven't really tried, but at the same time, I feel like I'm already done trying. I wanted to be loved, and I think I deserve to be loved. I'm learning how to fully love myself and be comfortable with myself, but all these mixed feelings of I'm not doing enough, I'm not trying hard enough, I can always do better is getting very tiring. The harder I try, the more hopeless I get. Is it just a numbers game? Should I let loose and say yes to whatever? What does a girl have to do to get a date nowadays? maybe I've watched too many unrealistic rom-coms and those magic moments don't really happen in real life. I thought writing these down would help, but now my head is just all over the place. Overthinking. Hello, can you go away? Sorry if none of these make sense, and thanks for reading this letter. I guess I'm just looking for some tough love, some harsh truth, or maybe just some loving affirmation. You're going to get all three of those, my love. Again, thank you for spreading your kindness, patience, empathy, and love. Listening to you guys weekly while I bike to and from work has been part of the best time of my everyday routine. Aww. Sincerely, Hopeless Romantic.
All right, my darling. Thank you so much for listening, for writing us and trusting us with this letter. We are so excited and honored to answer it. I'm so sorry you're feeling this way. This is so real and difficult, and I know that it wears on us, especially us anxiously attached folks, especially people who overthink things. Like, this is just giving like the hamster wheel of your brain like 1,000 different routes on that wheel, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta keep it all spinning. I gotta, there's a lot to overthink here is what I'm trying to say. And for sure. I know that it's like, as much as it keeps your mind busy, it wears on you emotionally and physically. And there's like a quiet, at rest part of you that is, maybe scared or lonely, We are going to get into this more, talk about whether those magic moments happen, how to say yes to more things without letting go of your standards, and how we can move forward in this weird world of dating while holding all of our feelings up to the light. But first, we're going to take a very, very quick break.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Hopeless Romantic, everything that Sierra said and more. Thank you for writing us and asking us this question. The thing that I immediately thought of when I read your letter was the episode of Sex and the City when Charlotte is like, they're all sitting they're sitting in the diner or whatever, and Charlotte is like, I'm so tired of this. Like, I've been dating since I was 15. Where is he? Right. Like, and is just like so exasperated. And we also, we get letters all the time and have conversations with folks all the time about like how difficult it is to be in this position where it's like, I'm trying. Things in my life are otherwise going well, but I don't have this one thing. And it is like, what am I supposed to do? Like, do I need to be trying more? Like, am I supposed to just be patient? Like, I think, one of the hard things about like finding romance, finding partnership in this way is that like, it's not necessarily like you put in the effort and then it equates to results, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, that is very confusing and frustrating.
For sure. Right? It's not like a factory where it's like, yes, if I make this part in this way, it'll create this car eventually, right? It's like, it's so much more nebulous than that because humans are more nebulous than like manufacturing or whatever other metaphor that you want to use. And I don't say that in a way of being like, of trying to be like harsh to you or in any way. I just like want to say that out loud because I think so much of the messaging that we get is that like either we'll find someone because we're fated to find them, right? Like it's in our destiny to find the one for us, or the other side of the coin, which is that like, if you're not with someone, it means you're just not trying hard enough, right? Like you're not putting yourself out there enough, which is like reminding me of another Sex and the City episode, right? Where they go to like a love guru who's like trying to get, I think it's like maybe even the same episode, but like Charlotte is like asked this like question of this love guru in this like big forum with all of these other people around. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. I'm so sad. I'm recently divorced and I'm just trying so hard and I still haven't found someone. And like, she's starting to tear up and the woman's like, you just need to put yourself out there. You just need to put yourself out there. And Charlotte's like, I feel like I am. And she's like, but you're not just putting yourself out there. And it's like, that is the only advice that we have for people who are like looking for love often is like, you just gotta do more. And the reality is like, that might be true in certain instances, but it's also exhausting. It also doesn't yield results every single time. And it also might be that somebody's like putting themselves out there every day in every way, and it's still not getting the thing that needs to happen or that they want to happen, because like it's not just a given equation that like the harder you try, the better your results are going to be. Sometimes the harder we try, the worse the things are for us. Like, and that's super disappointing and frustrating, and like life, you know, like it's so lifey that is the way that the world operates. Like it's so deeply unfair. And also like, of course it is, because like that is what human interactions are, just like deeply unfair all the time.
That is such a good reminder, Sam. And I'm glad to hear it said out loud like that, because even you and I, even people who talk about the unfairness of life all the time on the show for almost 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. I still, in the back of my mind, because of, you know, the way stories have been told to us since we were little, think that XYZ will equal ABC or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you think that despite everything, we want life to feel fair because we want to get what we deserve, you know, and we all deserve love. We all deserve companionship if that's what we want. I also want to say, like, those, you pointed out those magic moments, like, do those really happen and I'm just not getting them, or I don't deserve them? Or have I just, like, you know, bought the lie of the rom-com, or, you know, whatever. And I was thinking as I was preparing, you know, I think they do happen. They do happen because I think I've experienced some of them. And they don't mean what we think they mean. Mm-hmm. These magical moments for me have happened with people who cheated on me. You know, these magical
and then
moments.
Dumped you.
Yes, and then dumped me. And these magical moments have happened. And then I had, you know, to make a really hard decision about not dating these people because we were ill fit or whatever. You know, like, magic moments happen, yes, but they don't mean what popular culture, storytelling, romantic comedies have taught us. Mm-hmm. They mean, because there's not some soulmate out there wandering around on their path, slowly making their way closer to you, right? There is a multitude of people out there that we are compatible with, right? And if we're lucky, if the timing is right, we meet them. You know what I mean? And we work through our baggage together, because there's no baggage-less person. And you know, as much as I want to think that, like, my wife and I were fated to meet, I think I was just lucky, you know, and all of the magical moments we've had between us didn't mean we were, like, destined to be together. If anything, they were like, you're destined to work through some hard shit together, you know?
For sure.
I don't want us to look for those magic moments and have them automatically equate, like, oh my God, I have to be with this person forever because I had this magic moment with them, and therefore they are my person, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes down to it, right, like, so much of relationships or finding people is, like, kind of luck, right? Like,
yes.
There is absolutely an element of, like, where are we creating barriers for ourselves?
How are you putting
right?
yourself
like,
out there? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Where it's like, okay, well, if I'm only gonna date white men and I'm living in Shanghai, right? Like, cool. Then the pool of people is going to be smaller, right? Like, we're kind of limiting our chances when it comes to, like, finding someone who we're going to be compatible with, right? Or if we're putting things in, like, they have to be 6 feet tall, or they have to, you know, have come from money, or whatever it might be, right? Like, we're kind of limiting ourselves because we're limiting the pool of people that we're going to, like, find some sort of connection or we're going to sort of come together around. And if we're not, you know, meeting new people, if we're not asking our friends to set us up with people, if we're not trying the apps or whatever it might be, like, if we're not putting ourselves out there, then we're also limiting our ability to sort of find people in the randomness that is the universe, right? Like, it's kind of like a little bit of both things. Like, it's luck, and it's also a little bit of, like, how are we increasing our odds as much as possible?
Right.
So like part of it is like, can you think of ways that you can sort of expand your idea of what a potential mate could look like?
Yeah.
Right? Are there places where you can maybe look at some of those standards that you have, that quote unquote pickiness that you said that you have, and say like, is this actually a deal breaker for me? Right. Or can I consider the idea that somebody who isn't blonde could also be somebody that I really want to be with, or somebody who has a different education level than I do, right?
Yeah.
Like there's lots of different ways that we kind of set ourselves up to not see people fully as potential partners. And so I want you to have standards, absolutely, but I do want you to sort of look at some of those standards and say like, are these reasonable for me? Are these things that are actually like helping me find the right person, or are they kind of getting in the way of me seeing somebody who might be a really great mate in lots of different ways, but maybe doesn't have these like characteristics that I've decided are more important for me?
Yeah. And don't get tangled in any self-loathing or shame about trying to set this pickiness aside. Like everybody has stuff like this that we need to examine or unpack if we have the opportunity to, and if we have the desire to. Like this is, you said something about how realizing who you wanted to date like brought on a lot of things, and I understand that. I have empathy for that. I respect that you are even thinking critically about what your desire means in a bigger, in a bigger lens, right? Like there are a bunch of isms that are impacting us at all times. And I respect that you're reflecting that. But, Sam is always good at reminding us to like, don't use this as another weapon against yourself. I don't want Sam and I saying like, yeah, maybe we should practice saying yes more so that we can see people as fuller, more complex, deeper versions than just the surface level, right? Yep. I don't want you to use that as an opportunity to be mean to yourself more. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I totally agree with Sam. It sounds like you don't need to physically put yourself out there more. You're socializing, you're on the apps, you're getting out there, you're going to the clubs, like, right, you're putting yourself in spaces to meet people. But my challenge to you, like, the biggest thing I'm saying here is just, yes, this is hard. This wears on you. All of your feelings are real. Yes. And then the icing on top of that affirmation is a challenge to say yes more and see where it takes you. Because I was thinking about this earlier as I was reading this letter and preparing, like the more we say yes to things, the more opportunity we have to carve out our no's. Like the more we say yes to new experiences, the more we can sort of determine where the edges of our boundaries are, the edges of our desire, of our interest in other people. And so like if you go on one date with someone and they're fine, but you don't feel a spark, maybe you're not physically attracted to them, but you liked having a conversation with them, I would say yes to that second date. Say yes to see what is beyond the first layer of your no, right? What is beyond the first layer of your disinterest in someone? And if you're still not interested in them after date one, then you have an opportunity to practice that no. I wish like if I could redo my 20s, I would fucking like undo a lot of mistakes I made. and the one thing that I wish I could do, or I will do in the future, is like practice saying no to people. Practice saying like, oh, you know what? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
This is not, you are not for me. And I'm, whatever. And I think I want you to see that those two things are connected. Saying yes to new things, saying yes to get to know people more deeply, more complexly than just like their profile picture will give you also an opportunity to say no more authentically and more in tune with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. It's like breaking down those barriers just a little, but also remembering that you can always have those barriers.
Yeah, I love that idea of like saying yes so that you can learn a little bit more about like where the edges and boundaries are of like what's okay for you. And, you know, you talk about in your letter, like, I don't want to miss out on this experience of making these mistakes. And the only thing that I can say to you is that, like, if you want to make mistakes, you have to make mistakes, right? You have to be willing to take risk and put yourself out there and, you know, put yourself into situations that may be uncomfortable or maybe things that you're not sort of used to, but that will offer you the opportunity to do something new and try something different. And at the same time, it's also okay for you to not make mistakes as well, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that like making mistakes is necessary for somebody to know themselves more deeply, right? And of course, like, we all make mistakes, right? Like, you're not making mistakes, but like, you know, I think back to some of the things that I have said yes to that I would like not want to say yes to now. And for sure those things taught me, but I also think that I could have come into an understanding of myself without having to do this. And I think I just say that to say that, like, people have different paths, and we have this, like, again, idea of like, oh, well, your 20s is supposed to be for like being wild and making a lot of mistakes. And like, that's not everyone's experience. And it's not necessarily necessary for you to have in order to understand yourself more fully. Because some folks get married when they're 20 years old, right? Some folks just kind of live their lives and don't make these mistakes and then find someone in their 30s, right? Like, there's a whole slew of options available to us that don't quite fit into these neat narratives around what people should or should not be doing. So I don't want you to necessarily feel like you have to do some of this stuff in order to understand yourself better. I think that this like self-reflection and journey can look like you also just spending more time with yourself, asking yourself these questions about who you're attracted to, why you're attracted to, what you're looking for, what might be a deal breaker or not be a deal breaker. Like, that kind of stuff can also happen through just kind of living and being with yourself as well. Yeah,
I totally agree. And the last thing I want to touch on, my darling, because like I said, it is the core of what I want you to take from this, is just a big, you know, loving affirmation that, like, this is all hard. It's hard to feel like you're putting yourself out there and you're receiving little in return. It wears on us. We got a similar question at our June Just Breakup office hours, which is like a live Zoom hangout with Sam and I, where we answer questions live that our patrons can access. And somebody asked basically, like, how do I like stay positive and keep putting myself out there but deal with people being like, you just have to stay positive and put yourself out there. You know, like people's commentary like that, that's like accidentally sort of backhanded, you know. And one of the things I shared was that recently I've been feeling a lot of inner turmoil about like living in New York and really missing my life in Minneapolis. And I felt a lot of conflict or crunchiness in me because I felt my body and my heart really resisting the fact that it wasn't a black and white situation. It's not like I hated my life in Albany and really needed to live in Minnesota. And it's not like it's not like I 100% love my life in Albany and don't ever think about moving back to Minnesota. Like I recognized why there was so much turmoil happening in my heart is because I felt like I wanted it to be more black and white so that I could carry it more easily instead of carrying a little bit of grief all of the time. I wanted it to be where I was 100% happy with my life here in New York and I didn't want to be anywhere else. And I wanted it to be that I hated my life in New York so much so that I could make this clear-cut decision or whatever. And so I know this, you're like, what the fuck does this have to do with me dating? Let me tell you, my friend, I'm not sure, but this is what I want to say. I've been practicing really sitting with the understanding that we always carry a little bit of grief, right? And that actually should be the expectation over the expectation that we are wholly happy all the time. And I don't mean that in a pessimistic way. And I don't mean that to be like, I don't know. I don't mean that in a dark way. If I tell myself it's okay for me to miss my Minneapolis life, it's okay for me to want my life to look different in a dream world just a little. And at the same time, I like my life. I'm grateful for the blessings that I have. There are reasons why I'm here. It makes it easier to hold it all at once. And bringing that to you, my friend, like you can say, I really want a partner. I'm getting really tired of putting myself out there all the time. You can hold that and at the same time say, I know why I'm here. I have friends. I have a life that I appreciate. I have, I have growth that I can point to. Time well spent, not wasted. And you can hold both of those things at once. Like you can want a partner and love your life, and neither of those take away from one another. I think this is what I'm trying to get at, is like a lot of the conflict comes from us feeling like we can only hold one shaped thing at once. It's hard to hold the shape of I love my life at the same time as the shape of I really wish I had a partner. This hurts. This is wearing on me, at the same time. But we really can if we give ourselves permission to. If we say the purpose isn't to be 100% happy in a perfect life or 100% sad in a terrible life. It's somewhere in the middle all of the time, no matter what gifts you have in your life, no matter what partners you do or do not have. So this is all to say, you're carrying it all. Let yourself carry it all. Let yourself recognize when you're lonely and let yourself recognize when you're happy. And they're probably the same moment, That feels neither here nor there, but that's just the gist of me. So
no, that was great.
I hope that it feels a little lighter this week and that you maybe find yourself, curious and excited to say yes in a situation that you might have said no thanks to. And either way, we hope that two strangers across the world love you very much and hope that you're doing well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for writing. We love you.
We love you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Like Sierra said at the beginning of the episode, if you want more content from us or if you want to get ad-free episodes, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DM, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. And this literally keeps our microphones on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcast and music. And remember, we say it all the time, but two opposing things can be true at the same time. You can like your life and you can want it to look differently. You can be generally happy and lonely at the same time. There can be reasons why you are on the path that you are on now, and those reasons can coexist with wishes that your path were different, It's life is not as black and white as we were told it would be when we were children. And if all else fails,
just break up.